Welcome back to our business podcast. I'm usually not the one introducing, so he usually is. And it felt like an awkward silence, so I'm the one doing it this time. My name is Sydney. This is...
My name is Cliff, and this is the Benner Business Podcast.
See, he usually does this.
No, it was good. It was good. It was your first time. We'll get it next time.
Okay.
Or the one after that. So
it's a winging it kind of day.
You know what? We'll wing it. I think
Perfect.
this is the perfect episode to wing it. This is about bookkeeping.
Yeah.
That's
We
irony.
wing numbers.
Yeah, we do. We're kidding, IRS. We don't do that. Anyways, this episode is about bookkeeping. Sydney is going to be mostly interviewing me. I know. We've come up with some questions, and we'll just go with whatever we do because that's what we do.
Yep.
But for those of you who haven't seen the first episode, haven't seen our introductions,
and I'll be looking at notes because he made me notes. So if you're watching this, I'll be looking at the screen majority of the time because I don't even know much about bookkeeping. So that's his lane, and I give him the lane.
Yes, that is my lane. In our introduction episode, I did let everybody know that I do have a master's in accountancy. I did public bookkeeping for about 6 years. Right now, I do private accounting, and part of our business, we do bookkeeping as well. So I've done it, been in the trenches, have experience. Am I an expert? No. I know most bookkeeping. I know a lot of small business bookkeeping, but there are so many different lanes of bookkeeping. There's so many different industries that are completely different. Automotive industry is different than commercial warehouse, which is different than hospitality, and all of them have experts in those fields. I have a general knowledge.
I was going to say you're a generalist.
I am when it comes to...
If you're wondering, that was a picture frame.
Yeah, on my organized desk, I keep talking about how it's just cluttered here. Yes, just a lot of different type of businesses I've done. So I have a pretty good idea of how a lot of industries work, how a lot of bookkeeping it goes. Generally, specific questions I cannot answer usually. I have an idea, but I would rather an expert answer.
Usually, if you're wondering, it depends.
Oh, that's my go-to. My
now
quick draw.
My go-to is to tell people because he tells me all the time.
I have trained her properly for the perfect accounting response to every question. It depends.
And so then we should lead it to this question. What is bookkeeping?
All right. So in the world of accounting is kind of like, think of it as a pyramid. It goes down. Bookkeeping is the very bottom of that pyramid. It is the foundation of accounting. Bookkeeping is you take your statements, your credit card, your bank account, and cash transactions, the actual transactions that happen between you and another party. And we code those. We put those in categories. We put those to revenue. We put those to different expense accounts where they're supposed to go. And we do this as the most basic fundamental type of accounting. It's just bookkeeping. That's why you hear people have bookkeepers, they have accountants, they have CPAs, things like that. There's different professions because bookkeepers are going to take what transactions you make, put them where they should go. They belong. They should go. And then an accountant is going to do other things with that. But bookkeeping and accounting are different. Accounting there can't be accounting without bookkeeping. There can be bookkeeping without accounting. So in terms of general, we're starting a small business. I have a credit card. For instance, let's say our business. We have coaching, bookkeeping. We don't need an accountant on staff. We are going to have money coming in. We're going to have money going out for subscriptions, services, things like that. We're going to have, we're going to have different types of revenue. So my job or a bookkeeper's job would be, we have a bookkeeping client who pays $400. We have a coaching client who pays $2,500 the same day. The bookkeeper's job would be to take that 2,500 and put it to coaching revenue, coaching income, whatever category they want to put it to. Revenue would be more accurate.
And we'll do a quick pause. These numbers he's using are not
I have
accurate. They're just numbers.
no numbers don't have a social. I'm gonna be pulling stuff out of my head, try to map it out for people so they can see.
Make sure
that's a good disclaimer. This isn't.
These are just random numbers that he is.
Simple numbers. I'm trying to make a point with. Yes. So whatever I think it was $400 that bookkeeping. We're gonna put it in bookkeeping income. This allows us to create a financial statement, an income commonly referred to as P&L, profit and loss statement. And we're going to see what income is coming in to better make business decisions going forward. If we're only making the $400 once a month from one client, but we have 12 clients that we're making for bookkeeping revenue, then it might be better off to get rid of bookkeeping for us. It might not be worth it. And that's what bookkeeping is doing for us, is it is allowing us to create kind of a quote unquote book of our business to read what's going on with it. And we can see the cause and effects. Financially, yes.
So out of all the reports you do, yes, what is the most important report for a business?
Ooh, there's two.
Oh, there's two.
There's two. They go hand in hand usually. The balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. The profit and loss is going to have all the transactions come in. It's going to show the incomes, expenses. It's going to give us a total of net income, of either income or loss. And that number is going to flow to the balance sheet. Now, the balance sheet is going to show us what our bank account has in it. It's going to show us if we're owed any money, what fixed assets we have that help our business. If we lending money out, how much, we have out in the balance of that. On the other side is the liabilities. It's going to show us what we owe people immediately, what our credit card statement is owed. If we have any long-term debt, any short-term debt, things like that. And then finally at the bottom, we have equity. It's going to show us how much we've put into the business, how much the business is, kind of what we own of the business or what we owe. So, and that's where the profit and loss flows to, is the equity section, because the more income we bring in, the more kind of successful our business is, the more equity we have in it. If there's loss and we have to keep putting money in there, and then it's going to show that when we go to look at the balance sheet. So you can't have one without the other, so to speak. The balance sheet is going to show us everything kind of going on in the business, and the profit and loss is going to show us how the business operates.
Gotcha. It's a lot of words to try and understand.
I'm running out of breath here.
I don't blame you. It was intense. There was a lot of words going on.
Ironically, even though I am a bookkeeper and accountant, I do have asthma, so running out of breath here. I might need that inhaler.
So I know you were talking about how bookkeeping is the foundation.
Yes.
Is that why we need bookkeepers, or what would you say is the number reason why we need bookkeepers a part of a team?
Yes, I think the bookkeeper is fundamental in having part of your team, because a CPA, an accountant, is at the top of this pyramid, this foundation we're making. They know a lot more. They do a lot more. They're going to see, how your business is doing, be able to compare it year over year, other business things, market, industry. They have the knowledge. They specialize in these things. They make other transactions that happen that aren't cash or, happening with another party. For instance, depreciation, which is a non-cash expense the IRS allows in the code. That's something a tax accountant, a CPA, they're going to do separately from bookkeepers. Bookkeepers are going to go in and they're going to see all those transactions. So they're going to know the operations more than they're going to know kind of the business as a whole and how the outside world affects the business as a whole. So a CPA is going to know how the code is going to allow you to take the highest deductions, but the bookkeeper is going to be able to look at your profit and loss month over month and be able to say the seasonality of your business. They're going to see a transaction that comes in and be like, hey, what's this? And there are CPAs, there are accountants who do these things as well as part of their services, but at the same time, is that worth the amount they're going to charge? That again, that's a business decision, and that's something you have to look at. But for the most part, bookkeepers are going to be less than accountants, CPAs who do those higher end things. But a bookkeeper is also going to be there to help you read your financials, see the things going on, and address situations that happen. If you take a 12-month statements from your bank and credit card and plop them on your CPA's desk, they're going to charge you their hourly rate to compile those, put it together, make one statement for the whole year. And it's easily possible that they're going to miss a transaction that somebody stole your card.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very common that somebody makes a purchase from Netflix or makes something from Amazon with your card, and they're not going to know it. They're going to just be, hey, what does Amazon, oh, I think sometime last year in Amazon we purchased this. So they're going to put that on there. Hopefully you should always have the receipts for every transaction. But a bookkeeper, if they're doing your stuff monthly, they're going to be like, oh, hey, 2 weeks ago there was this purchase on your card. What's this for? I didn't make that purchase. Like, oh, well, you need to call the company, the credit card company, get that back. So hopefully, I think monthly bookkeeping is a very good thing to have for most businesses. There are some that you have to weigh the pros and cons, the costs, and
what kind of businesses would you say those are?
that
Where you
don't.
need to weigh the pros and cons more?
I would say real estate is one of them. If you're just starting out, you're gonna have one house, you're gonna see how everything goes. It's tough to say you need a monthly bookkeeper. It's gonna because your expenses every month, and it's only gonna bring in so much. It's not gonna change depending on the lease. That would be more long-term leases too, because it's gonna be the same month to month. You should be able to have time to go in yourself, look and make sure there's no fraudulent statements, transactions, and then
So
have somebody compile those at year end.
it almost sounds like it's still beneficial, like maybe quarterly.
Yeah, I would say quarterly. I mean, you're gonna have someone who has more expertise in the subject of bookkeeping, categorization, and an outside source to look at your stuff. To compile it, put all those transactions into your own company's quote unquote books, so that way you can read what's going on with your company. And I do think it helps people because a lot of people get scared.
Oh yeah,
And I think this,
one of those.
yeah, totally. I understand. I've been through some audits. I've done audits for clients from the IRS. It is a scary letter to get. And like I've seen probably over 40 of them. And every time your heart skips a beat still.
That's crazy.
So like it's not a fun letter to get. And it's something that if you have a bookkeeper, a good bookkeeper will help you be ready for that. They're gonna know what what you can and cannot do and changes over year. For instance, one of them is probably about this is 2023, probably about 4 years ago, I believe. I'm trying to remember. You could go out and if you went and met a client at Starbucks, you spent $10 on coffee. You're gonna put that to meals and meals expense on your books. Well, at that time, they were only 50% deductible on your tax return. So on your books, you'd have $10. Your tax return, they only allow $5. So you're typically a bookkeeper would specify that on your statement in your account's name. They would change it to 50% meals. So you'd see that it would be at full price of $10, but it's going to be $5. So then a couple of years later, the code changed to allow 100%. These are separate issues and separate video we could talk about, but this is a stimulation thing for the economy. They wanted more people to go out and eat. 100% deductible. Now that $10 is $10 on your books and on your tax return.
And so most bookkeepers usually stay up to date with all the tax codes.
It's very recommended that they stay up to date on those codes. It just allows you to be more confident in your work. It allows you to have a conversation with your clients, and since you're doing a monthly, you're seeing how operations go, you can direct them and just let them know that, like, this is a tax conversation. I'm aware that this code happened, this change happened. This might be something you look into to talk to your tax accountant about. One of the things I've learned is one of the items they're trying to change is a depreciation item. They allow right now, that's called bonus depreciation. Lets you take 100% of how much an asset's worth. Buy a computer for $1,000. You can take $1,000 of expense that year. But going forward in future years, they're trying to do like a step down approach to it, to where the next year it's going to be 80%. So now you can only take $800 of depreciation on that asset. The other for that first year, the other 200 will be spread over whatever the code allows for that asset item. The next year will be 60%, then 40 and 20, and you'll get rid of it. Now, if you're a long-term business and you have plans on purchasing equipment, that's a huge issue. That's a huge expense. And your bookkeeper, knowing that, you could address them and reach their tax account, and maybe they spend $200 to talk to their tax account, but find out that that's going to happen. They need to step up purchases now rather than later.
Gotcha.
That's a huge decision for your books and your financials and your business. Now, if you didn't have a bookkeeper kept up on that, you would have missed that. You would have been told after tax season, after it's too late.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's a big bummer. So your bookkeeper should be keeping up on stuff. They're not tax accountants, they're not tax professionals, but they have to know it just to be effective and to be the best for their clients.
Okay.
But at the same time, they're going to charge for that too. You get what you pay for.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you get a $20 bookkeeper, and he's just going to take your statements, put them in, and you got your financials, but maybe you don't have any responses, no questions. They, if they have a transaction they don't know, they just put it to owner draw, and you don't get that expense, even though it was something that you should have. Or you made a cash transaction, and your bookkeeper, a good one, knows to ask you monthly if you did, and a bad one might not ask you, and you missed out on that transaction. So there's just things that you have to consider when obviously vetting out bookkeepers and things like that.
So what are some recommendations when vetting out bookkeepers? What do you recommend? Say me as a small business owner, how do I find the right bookkeeper for me?
Yeah, definitely has to start with I want to say like your tolerance to risk, but knowing what your business, knowing that, and what you're willing to spend. Because obviously the best bookkeeper would be a CPA, because they're going to know everything and they're going to be able to do this. At the same time, my counter argument to having a CPA who does your taxes in your books is fraudulent risk is higher, or embezzlement. Because if the person who's reporting your transactions is also coding them and not giving you, accounting's hard. It's a whole language. So if you look at a P&L and you're like, oh, that looks good, like I'm making money, then you're not digging into it. They could have put every month $5 could go to them somehow. And this happens a lot. This is something you hear about with people who
how do you look for those things?
You have to just kind of look at your transactions and notice if something's happening, something's weird. You got to ask those questions. Can't be afraid to ask those questions, and you also have to find someone who's okay with being asked that, because if they get defensive and stuff like that, then it does harm a relationship. But someone who's kind of learned accounting, part of audit is learning about that stuff. So they should be like, they're not asking me because they think I stole. They're asking me as I'm trying to think, as a tool procedure for the company. It's a business item that they're doing to eliminate risk.
Okay, so it's better not to have the same person for a bookkeeper and a CPA. Like just keep it separated so you know, so one person could notice this, or yes, a person could notice this. Okay.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it, is eliminates that risk of, because your bookkeeper could do the same thing. But if your CPA is like, why is this here? And you have to ask your bookkeeper and dig into it, you might know you have to get a new bookkeeper.
Okay.
But at the same time, too, another reason would be CPA is going to charge 250, bookkeeper is going to charge 50 to 120. So, I mean, if they're going to do the same amount of work, how would you rather pay? You're going to get close to the same thing, if not the same thing. Then obviously you want to save money.
Okay.
And so I guess what was the vetting out, right?
It's just making sure, like, how to make sure you got the right bookkeeper, and it sounds like just make sure you're comfortable with the person, you have a connection with the person, but just don't have the same person doing the same, like your taxes, your bookkeeping.
Yes, that's kind of a way to have controls set. Is always just, yeah, and that goes with business too. Don't have the person who cashes your checks write your checks. So, another thing too is to ask them about their education. It is possible to learn bookkeeping on your own. I'm not saying that those people are wrong.
I met a bookkeeper. She started her own business and she went to hospitality school, but she loved the language of bookkeeping.
So she went to school. She probably did an accounting course. Ask them about that. There are some bookkeepers who learn as they do, and which works, but at the same time, there are fundamentals, there are concepts in bookkeeping and accounting. Again, accounting is that whole pyramid. When you learn bookkeeping, you're going to be learning accounting. So there are concepts that are in there that they're hard to explain. Like I can't explain a lot of concepts to you. I just know them.
Yeah.
Because I've done.
And that's why I give you the lane.
Yeah. So
I don't try to take it over because I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. But like someone, I mean, it's associate's degree, 2 years of accounting. If they just did 2 years of accounting, I mean, that probably works. Bachelor's in accounting, they probably did 2 years of accounting with 2 years of generals. And master's of accounting, I did 3 years of accounting, 2 years of business, along with 2 years of generals. So I mean, you got different levels. Master's, I obviously studied a lot more conceptual knowledge, financial, a lot of stuff that is
how to look for things. Like, for example, the IRS, like I don't know how to look at their website, but you're just like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have thought to go down that tab.
Yeah. And like with the levels of accounting, you're learning, the higher you go, you're learning how to do financial accounting for companies that sell stock, Fortune 500, Dow Jones, those companies, you learn how to do accounting for them, and everything underneath them is easier. Like you're almost overqualified sometimes because you do like a small business, you're like, you should be doing it this way, but at the same time, like you don't, it's not worth it to you, like, money to benefit wise. It'll give you the same results, but like doing it this way is like proper accounting. But you could also do it this other way that's a little bit cheaper, and that's something you have to be aware of too. So, right, an accountant, a bookkeeper doesn't have to have the credentials of a CPA. They don't have to have a master's degree. But you want to know what their level of education is. And then you also want to know the level of experience. Those IRS things you talked about, I only knew about them because I had 4 or 5 years of experience dealing with tax returns and payrolls. So I saw those come in. I did those. Someone who doesn't, I mean, if they're a bookkeeper, they never had something like that happen, that would be scary.
Yeah.
Like you're going to spend, like they're going to help you with it, but they're probably going to spend the whole day researching exactly what to do. So if they're a good one, they're going to research how to do it. They're not just going to tell you to move on. So
yeah.
And I think recommendations are a great one too. I think whenever we talk about who to find, what to, contractors, things like that for all these different industries, attorneys, lawyers, you always start with your group. You have a group of people. Hopefully you surround yourself with like-minded people, other business owners, someone who knows someone who can help you get in touch with someone who's good. That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
And also having a bookkeeper who they kind of know their business limits. Because if someone says like, I've never done that before, like, I don't know what I'd do, but I'll figure it out for you. It's kind of a red flag. Like there's some industries and business that like what I would tell them would be like, I'm not the best person for you for this job. If it's an emergency and we can't find you someone, I can do your books month to month, but we need to pass it on as soon as we can. Because I'm also my rate is going to be really high because it's something I don't know. It's going to take me a lot of time. And it's something I'm not it's just not beneficial for both parties. But I probably have recommendations. I probably know a few other people who are doing bookkeeping who have different expertise in different subjects. Like this person, your books, you're doing this, your business is a marketing service, and you do retainers for your clients. That's how you charge them, and you do hourly, but you do this and that. Like, if it's something where you're explaining to business and I'm daydreaming, I'm not the best person for you because I honestly have no idea how your business works.
Yeah.
Your bookkeeper should know how your business functions. And we've talked about this. I'm kind of more of a general bookkeeper. I know how small businesses kind of start up. I know the functionality of them. I can do most books relatively easily, but there will come a point when it's not beneficial for me as a business owner to do your books, and it's not beneficial as a business owner for you to have me do your books. And that's communication we have to have. And as long as your bookkeeper can communicate their pros, their cons, their strengths, their weaknesses, and they have that confidence in themselves, I think that's a huge selling point too.
Okay. I know you've worked with a few different softwares as a bookkeeper. Is there like recommendations on a few that you're like, yes, you as a small business, you need that, or I wouldn't recommend looking into that because it's for larger companies?
Yes. So I definitely think it depends. Love it. We should have started a ticker for this one to see how many times I could say it.
Every time he says it depends, take a drink.
Ooh, a shots game, right?
Well, all I got is water.
You got water, yeah.
Take a shot of water each time.
There we go. I've used QuickBooks for the past 7 years. I've used both their softwares. They have a desktop version, they have an online version. I would say for companies that are very asset heavy and
And asset heavy, you mean product, right?
I mean like they're like a trucking company. So like, they have like 50 trucks.
Okay.
And that's how they start out with all these trucks and they're having them go all over and they're adding repairs to them and having a lot. Probably want to use desktop. Yeah. I think it's a software more dedicated to it. If you're having a company that's doing worldwide inventory and you're having maybe $1 million in sales, probably, well, maybe 750,000 in sales, and you have inventory, you might want to go with desktop as well. They have features and items that help you out with adding raw materials, converting them to finished goods, converting them to inventory on your books, and then allowing you to, every time you make a sale, it generates all the behind the scenes transactions that happen to make sure your financials are good. QuickBooks Online I would say, very good for service-based companies.
Okay, let's take a quick pause here and make a quick note. All these platforms he's talking about, these are not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. He has knowledge and background using them.
Yes.
But in no way are we sponsoring these products.
Yes. If you would like to sponsor us with these products, please reach out and we will talk about that.
If we like them.
Yes, we will.
We're picky.
We are. We'll sponsor products we like. But
back to the topic.
Most and after the last 7 years of dealing with a public accounting and doing financial reporting, bookkeeping for clients, QuickBooks and the world moves to more of a cloud-based online. I mean, they still make desktop, which works. It does. I like it. I think that's what I started with, so I got the fundamentals really well with that. So when I switched over into QBO, QuickBooks Online, and started using that, it was a little, learning curve. All of them have learning curve. I'm getting more, I'd say I'm pretty proficient with it now. I've done the trainings, I've done a lot of stuff like that. So it makes more sense to me. But I did notice that it's more for startups, it's more for service based. Um, it's a general accounting software. So almost any company can come in there and make it work. Is it the most efficient? It's again like what you get what you pay for, and it's like your bookkeeper. I don't specialize in all industries. So if you have a specialty industry or you have an industry that you have a lot of different industry items and transactions happening, you probably want to gear towards software with that. But QuickBooks is a easy to use. It's very intuitive. They have apps for mileage tracking. Like if you purchase their monthly software, you get the access to like you can make an invoice on the fly. You can have they do a payment processing thing to where like clients can pay with a credit card, a debit card, whatever from the invoice you email them. So you get your money quicker. They just hold a fee for that. Um, they do 1099 tracking, they do payroll as well. So you could do it all from the software, which is good and it works. So I definitely think QBO is the way to go for most startups.
Yeah.
Most definitely service based, I think, is the way to go because you got the mileage tracking on your phone, the app. You can make invoices on the fly. They have other features on there that work as well. So
let's say you're a little Etsy shop.
A little Etsy shop.
Yes. You make homemade products.
Mm-hmm.
What platform would you recommend?
I would stick with QBO.
Okay.
I know you have inventory and coming in, but you're not having a huge warehouse. You're not having pieces and parts moving all over. You're gonna bring in the supplies, you're gonna make it right there, and you're gonna ship it that day.
Okay.
However that process for your Etsy shop works. But I think QBO is gonna be probably the better option to go with. I guess it's a very standard software, very intuitive.
So would you say the same? Say I owned let's just go with 4 commercial buildings.
Okay.
And I rented all of them out, and I also own 5 just real estate houses.
They all under the same company too.
They're all under the same company.
Okay.
What do I do with that? And I'm making a decent profit.
Oh,
I'm not a startup anymore.
Not a startup.
I've been in business for say 7 years.
7 years, and you have that much asset. I would recommend finding an accounting software for real estate at that point.
Okay.
They're gonna have functions that allow you to put leases in place, make automatic transactions. The more softwares that include automated items for you, the less less manual labor you have, the cheaper it's gonna be. So something like that where you can put in your leases, you can put in your tenants, you can put in because you have change orders and repairs and things like that. If you find a software that does all of that for you, you're also going to have one hub of items that allow your workers and your bookkeeper and whoever else is on your team work through that software to find each piece. You're not going to have to like log into QuickBooks, log into this. So you're definitely going to want to find a software that's made for that industry.
So you can streamline it.
Yes, you want to streamline it and yeah, you'll just be more efficient at everything.
Okay.
Now when you're starting, that QuickBooks might not be bad. Might be a good one to start with. Another
I guess I do have another question while we're on this topic. What's the transition? Say I want to transition from one bookkeeping software or to a different one. What is that transition like?
A lot of the times, and I've done a few of these, a lot of times it is chaotic. It's not nearly as organized and as easy as the software companies say. So like if they tell you it's a 2-week process, I would plan for 3 months.
Wow. Okay.
I would say that's going to be safer. and you'll be aware that the headaches are going to come. You're not going to be like 2 weeks out and you'll be like, we're not even in the software, like we just got logins type of thing, and you'd be freaking out. If they say 2 weeks, plan 3 months, and that goes with our scheduling episode. Definitely should look into that and how we talked about, you have this amount of time, then set up an ABC priorities, make it happen. But your first goal, the kind of the first step of accounting is coming up with your chart of accounts. Now, this is the table of contents of your books. You're going to look and you're going to see, for instance, the real estate one, you're going to see revenue, warehouse revenue, single family revenue, rent revenue, maybe late fee revenue, pet revenue. Those items are going to be in there. Then you're going to have your accounting, your advertising expenses, all your categories of what your business is going to have for expenses and income. You have to create that first. You got to tell the system where transactions are going. So you have to develop that first. And what's usually nice, and I know QuickBooks does this, is they're aware that their software is a generalistic software that people go to start there, go to industry. So they have, I know QBO has a section where you can just export all your list of stuff, your chart of accounts, your vendors, your customers, your revenue styles, whatever else you got to put into your system. They let you export it. You can fill out a little data, and then you import it into your new software, and it usually auto fills it all for you. So you're not opening up the new software with QuickBooks on one screen, new one, and you're like, all right, start on accounting, click, 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 and you have to click 5 new numbers on there because there's always details you have to add, and then you start the next one. You put it all in there, and then you go through and fill out the details where you need to.
Okay.
And usually, like I said, you start with the chart of accounts, and you got your vendors, and you got your customer list. You're pretty much putting everything in there, so that way you can tell the system where transactions go, where something goes. This transaction goes from our checking account to this expense for this vendor. So then each account has its own little subledger, and then that vendor has a subledger. So then when you have to track something, you can go to that vendor, or you can go to that account, and then you can track it from there and trace it.
Yeah, interesting. Gosh, do you have other opinions about bookkeeping? Like what?
The biggest thing is you have to be, again, ironic for me because my desk looks this way. You have to be organized.
Chaotic organized for
at
you.
least, yeah, mine's chaotically organized. I know where everything is at here. It's organized in my method. But like, if you have a transaction, you want to have an invoice, you want to have receipt, you want to have proof, you want to be prepared, you want to have it saved on your computer, on the cloud, a thumb drive, something like that. Because there's nothing worse than getting the shoebox full of receipts as a bookkeeper and being like, what do you want me to do with this? And they're like, well, I have some personal in there too. And you're like, you couldn't even pick out the personal ones. You had to okay. So then you have to organize them. But if you have, and we use the software for our clients that, do we want to say softwares we use?
That's up to you. Like it's free to the public, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is free. We use Box for our clients. We use Box for our stuff. Box gives you right now on April 2023, they give you 10 gigabytes free on your Box account. And you can just sign up. The app allows you to scan in receipts right from your phone into a PDF. And this is great because if you do have an audit, somebody asks you a question, legal stuff, bank, whatever, investors, you have a PDF ready to go. And that's the most common way of something opening. That's not an Excel sheet. It's not a Word doc. Somebody else can adjust it. It's a PDF that if it's adjusted, it tells you. But it allows you to scan it. And so if you make a Starbucks purchase and you hate receipts, you're carrying them with you because you lose them, they get ripped. Anything happens to receipts that sit in the car forever. You just take a scan of it then and there, and you can what is it, connect your bookkeeper with it, and you just put that in there into like a folder that says receipts, and their organization style as they go into that receipt or into that folder, they rename it what it should be, move it to what month it should go to. Then your bookkeeper can essentially do work whenever they want to. 4 o'clock at night, sure. I don't know why, but
Well, some do.
some do. Some are night owls, but that's the thing is if your business involves you being open in the morning, and you and your bookkeeper have a gap of like 4 hours a day where you can talk, so that's why you got them. But they do all their stuff at night, then you can put stuff in there and you have a scan of it, you have that receipt, you have it ready for anybody who asks. Then you're organized, you're ready to go. And if somebody asks a question, what'd you get? That's sometimes like you might be asked to prove what you got. I don't know why, but you might, and your bookkeeper has a question, they can go into that receipt. Or if it's an invoice from a company, it might be an asset. There might be one, dug in there somewhere. So they can pull that out and get that information. So your book is more accurate too. So having just all that stuff one place, thumb drive, whether, I think Box is good because you can scan it from your phone.
Yeah,
And
but if you don't feel comfortable with that, like you said, thumb drives work just as good,
yeah,
or then you don't have to feel the cloud is watching
yeah.
them.
And the world's just going more digital too.
It is, yes.
And frankly, we can attest to this too. I mean, this little thumb drive here is this big. If we kept a stack of papers, it's this big, and we had enough of them, all these receipts, all these random papers or invoices and stuff, that gets in the way. And if I have to hold on to that for 7 years for the business,
Yeah, but
I'm gonna need a big box. Whereas I could hold on to this for 7 years and forget about it. And then one day I'll go back and redo everything on top of it.
yeah, and I'm sure you can attest to like even all the different people you've worked with and how their processes were different than our processes.
Mhm.
And there's just it's always changing, it just seems like.
Yes, definitely. We know we're 27 this year.
It's
Uh
crazy to think.
it is very crazy to think. When I started doing accounting, I think I was 20, and I was working with more people who are later generations. And some of the stuff I actually got the old accounting ledger sheets they used to use before computers, where they would write the date and then what the transaction was, and it would follow across the page to whatever account it went to, and the accounts were in columns. So that's how some people would bring in their accounting, and they would just have a sticky note that was like end of 2016 and then end of 2017, and they would just use the same book. And so we have to go through that, make sure their stuff is actually calculated right, totals at the bottom, put that into a spreadsheet, and then we can put that into our systems to
Wow.
do stuff. Um, and I've had clients who they didn't use QBOs properly, so they had all their transactions sync into there, and then they would manually enter them themselves. So they doubled every transaction, and they didn't know how to use the software. And now we have people who they sync in their transactions, and they know that we're taking care of them, and so they can go in and look at the reports, and we work on it whenever we want to. We have an agreed upon date of when their financials need to be done.
Hmm.
In the meantime, I can go do stuff for April now. I can get the first part of April done for them.
Hmm.
And if they request it, we could get it done today. They could look at how their year to April 5th, 15th, whatever today is, 15th is, to get a report of financials. Because we have the softwares and systems, we're not using paper. We're using online stuff, and that works for us. I think that's a great way of us being efficient for our time, what we need to do in our lives. But there are some people who pad a paper, they write down, they use a simple notebook, and they're just starting their business out, and it's free to them. It's just a notebook and paper. So that's what they use. But with the way stuff is going in softwares, one of the softwares I would recommend, at least at the very minimum, if you're going to start a business, is Wave Accounting. It is a free software, free, very, very generic bookkeeping software. Um, You get what you pay for. You can't view month to month reports. You have to pull one each time. Whereas QuickBooks, you could pull reports for as many times as you want, length, whatever. So this one just allows you to do 1 month at a time or year at a time or quarter, I think. But it allows you to create a bookkeeping ledger for your business. And it just helps you be more organized.
Okay.
And I think that's a bare minimum of what I would suggest for anybody starting a business, because it's free. So there's almost no reason. And it's going to teach you accounting softwares and reports. But for most businesses that are starting up, they're getting going, I would say probably QBO as the newest software that's going to be used. And they're very aware that people are going to transition to a different software. So even if you move to desktop or you move to, I think Xero is another software, Oracle is another big one, or even an industry software, it's ready to go.
Okay. Do you have any other recommendations as a bookkeeper, or like what a small business should do for their bookkeeping?
I definitely want to say, like, talk to your bookkeeper about your stuff. Now, it depends how much is coming in, how much this affects your livelihood. Um, if you're starting a side hustle and you work another job, maybe try to get a bookkeeper to do it quarterly, and that's how often you talk to them. At least annually, you're going to have to do something with your books because you have to report it to the IRS. So you have to have somebody take a look at your financials and compile them and get them ready for tax season. If it's getting up there to starting to make maybe half your salary, half what wage you make, and you're getting the ball rolling on it, you might want to look into how much your monthly bookkeeper costs, because they will track stuff that you're not aware of. We have 1099 contractors for clients and for us. You have to request their W-9s. And the best time to do it is either before they get paid or right after, because if they don't they don't have to give you a 1099 if they don't feel like it. I believe they're required to, but at the same time, I've had some that have said, like, I'm not giving you this.
Wow.
You have to, and make sure you get that in documentation. Everything you need to do for your books, you have to cover your ass. And everything you do for your business, you have to cover your ass, whether that's going to be tax reasons or legal reasons. If you have proof and documentation, then you are in a much better position if you didn't. And it just makes you feel better when that situation, because it's going to be stressful.
And you recommend it written, right?
Email, text, written, paper, contract, something that's not just word of mouth, because hearsay is just hard to go off of.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have one of those items, take a photo of it, just save it to, a cover your ass box on your thumb drive. And if it, God forbid it does come up, but if it does, you're ready, more prepared.
Yeah.
So I think just communication with your bookkeeper. Make sure you got yourself covered. You have ways of saving stuff.
Do you think your bookkeeper should talk to your accountant? Do you think they should be like in communication together, or do you think it's better as, say, the business owner is the third party?
Being the intermediary between them two?
Yes.
I actually think it's a good idea. I'm always open when I talk to clients, potential clients we have. I'm open to, here's my email. Feel free to give it to them. Because if they know something I don't and they teach me and I look it up and I confirm that it's there, I'm better off now for my clients.
Okay.
And I've met people who will argue tax things. They'll argue, a lot of, and this is something people don't realize, a lot of the code is very interpretive. It is designed to be a certain way, and there's different spectrums of each part of the tax code. You can be riskier, you can be more conservative on how you approach those codes. And talking to someone, getting their ideas, and just more communication. Benefits, it might cost you a little more because you're going to obviously probably pay for the time of your tax account and your bookkeeper to do that for you. But your books might be better off. And if that's the case, like you're financially, it's better and it's more clear and concisive, then it might be worth it. And you can have that conversation with your accountant and your bookkeeper. Like, why am I paying for this? For you guys to talk, but at least having that communication for them, especially like if it's the 15th and taxes are due on the 15th, and your tax accountant's like trying to ask, like you're the business owner, and he contacts you and is like, hey, I need you to ask why they did something for this. So then you have to try to contact me, and if I'm busy doing something or not there, then that's kind of that way. But if or I respond to you and you got busy or something happened and you couldn't respond back, that's just a line of communication. Something could go wrong. Whereas if it's just direct, it's more of like, here's what I did, here's the report. I can send them it instantly. They can see why I did something, be like, oh, that makes sense now. I just wanted to confirm it and continue on. So I think if having a bookkeeper who's open to that also shows that they're more confident in their work, but they're also willing to learn.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Any other little tidbits you can give us about bookkeeping? Because my head is like information overload.
I definitely just think the biggest thing is like recommendations from people for a bookkeeper, recommendations from your bookkeeper on what you're going to do, softwares, syncing stuff up, getting documents organized. Just, each level is going to have a recommendation of where to go. Understanding that accounting and bookkeeping are the same and different. And knowing that like it is important to keep up on your bookkeeping, and it's okay to not to pass that on first. That's commonly something that gets passed on right away because it is hard and it's very time consuming. And there's so many different aspects that is it worth your time to learn it? Is it worth the hour that you spent learning when you could have paid a CPA or not even a CPA, but just a bookkeeper $50 to do your entire books for an hour, and then you could have gone and made $70, and now you're down money because you think that it's the best for you to do stuff for free. So when it gets to that point, it's very common to pass that on, and I do think it should be passed on to someone who knows what they're doing because it's so stressful. Finances are so stressful, and when you're starting these businesses, when they are part of your wage and stuff, it's going to flow into your budgeting, your personal finances, and it's gonna cause you stress. And we have to do a episode on budgeting, talk about how that goes for us and how stressful that can be. But like if the business isn't making money and you aren't aware of it because you're doing something wrong, then that's going to be an even bigger issue when it does hit you that you did something wrong. Now if you're doing something right and you can pass that on to make more money, you're going to be more successful doing that. But you have to be able to understand kind of your financials and be able to budget and just I guess be willing to go down that road. So I think that's all I got.
There's a lot of information in one little time frame.
I didn't say it depends as much as I was hoping.
I think I'm
a little disappointed. I know. 2 water shots, not nearly enough to put you in the right mood. But I just want people, our viewers, our listeners, to realize that like always feel free to ask us questions, especially like I do bookkeeping. I know it's stressful. I know it's hard and it's scary. You're not alone. Definitely reach out. If it's just a question, just let us know. If you're looking for someone to do bookkeeping, let us know. And like I said, I'm confident in the bookkeeping I do and the work we do as well, to tell you that I'm not the best person for this job. If you can't find somebody, I will find a way to help you. I have recommendations for other people who do bookkeeping who might be more, but we can at least get you going month to month and search for somebody else. So we'll find a way to make sure that bookkeeping is not holding you back and not your bottleneck. That's something I'm trying to say is don't let that be something that holds you back, because there are
And also, I think also going out to connections or groups, that would be a huge start too, because we don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
There's some bookkeepers that we don't even know that would be so much better for you that you may find going to a networking event, going to
conference or an expo in your industry. You're gonna find someone who's probably more proficient, or they know somebody.
Yeah, and that would be even a good start, going to those kind of events, because I don't know anything about, for example, trucking industry. I know you know a little bit more than I know.
Yeah.
But let's say a ribbon factory.
Yeah.
I don't know much.
I mean, we could do it,
but are we a good fit for it?
That's they're gonna explain to us, we're starting out, we expect this much a year, it's not that much, here's our process. We could be like, okay, as long as we can identify each process, then we know how the financials will work.
Yeah,
but if they're like,
if you're established,
if they're going and they're like, we make multi-millions in this, I'm gonna be like, I don't know. I mean, like, I want to talk business with you because I want to expand my own knowledge, but like, I can't help you with what you're doing in your books.
So if you do reach out, there's a chance we may not know.
We might not be, might not be the best person for the job, but we can obviously help you.
Stop yourself in making connections in your industry. That is a huge sign to find the good bookkeepers, because we're just generalists. Finding someone in your industry, I feel, would be a whole bunch better.
Yeah.
Because they know your industry. So I would recommend almost looking at those places before coming to a generalist.
Yes. We might be a great place to start and help you branch out and give you ideas and advice on what we can do. That's kind of our coaching
podcast.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But like, what was I gonna say? Oh, to reiterate that, like, you might be going into an industry, you might be starting up, and when you do approach those bookkeepers, they're gonna cost more. So you have to be able to identify. You're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah.
If you get me or a generalist bookkeeper, I'm not gonna be able to do, or I'm not gonna know all the industry in and outs and how you can benefit more from those.
Yeah.
But if you do pay for someone who's in that industry, that's their specialty, they know that, they can probably advise you on a lot of stuff. They might have more connections.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay for that though. So that's important to know.
Sometimes it's worth the pay.
Sometimes it is worth it.
You instantly make those connections, like, oh, they know a wholesaler.
Yeah.
Yes, please send them my way.
Oh, I have a client who does this for you. Like, they can do it. I'm like, yeah, of course.
Send them my way.
Then I don't have to go find that.
Yeah.
Now I save 2 hours of my time that I could now make $100 some odd dollars an hour. Whatever my hourly rate is, I can make that because I don't have to spend it doing something.
Yeah, because I spent it on a bookkeeper or an accountant in that profession rather than getting a generalist. Yes. But there's always options. That's the fun part of business.
Yeah, I mean, that goes with the mindset, and there's so many things you could do. It's not just like everything is a wall. It's, how do I get past this?
Yeah.
What's my next step? What do I need to do? There's never it's done, it's over, I can't move on, I have to go watch TV. There's always another thing you can do or something around the problem. Yeah. The problem has an answer in business. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm bookkeeped out.
You're bookkeeped out?
Yeah.
You're understanding the feeling. It depends. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching, listening, however you're hearing this. We appreciate it. Please reach out to us. We're on bennerstride.com. Pretty sure we're on Bennerstride for Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, if you're in charge of that, because that's not my lane. That's one thing that in business we learn our lanes. And obviously bookkeeping is not my lane either.
I may have an inhaler and be a bookkeeper, but I am an extrovert. So we see how that works. But you guys have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.